the internet is your biggest ally. The internet just completely diminishes any of those walls and separations that people have between each other. When I got my job at Insomniac, I didn't meet any of these people in person. I hadn't been to a GDC before. I hadn't gone to any of these public events ever.
Wow.
I was all on Twitter, just Twitter.
The question immediately transitions to, where am I going now? And I think the sooner that you can start to consider that question, even as a student, the more ahead of the game you will be, and the more fulfillment you will find in your craft.
I love spa days.
Spa day, yes!
It's a bit rainy and gray in LA today, but I wanted to come outside, so I had a more interesting backdrop for this intro. Not only did we record a video today, but we also had our much loved friend Melissa Coleman on. She's another character artist at Insomniac Games. And what also made this episode a little bit special was that we took questions from students that we knew and we answer those and give our 2 cents on how you could break into the AAA game industry. So we address questions like how Melissa leveraged Twitter to get her job, how you can deal with competing with other students, how you can create a killer portfolio. One of my favorite questions, what separates the good students from the great? And we also included down in the show notes, along with all the resources that we talk about, we just started Twitter and Instagram, so you can follow those. Make sure that you don't miss any updates. Without any further ado, let's jump into it. Also, as a quick heads up, we jumped straight into our answers on question 1. What was the number one thing that you wish you knew as a student? Check it out. Personality matters way more when you get into the actual job.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like maybe this came more naturally to you guys, but for me, that was a big learning
with someone
thing.
with no personality at all.
Well, you are...
I'm sorry.
I wrote down some examples that came from you. I mean, you bring in apple cider for other people. You're constantly come in with a smile. Linda brought in 2 pies the other day, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
good.
There's a lot more than just the work that goes into it.
There's so much more than just the work.
Yeah, the work gets you in the door, but what keeps you there is being a good team player and being somebody that you would want to hang out with for 8 hours every day.
Yeah.
That's a big part.
Yeah.
Because as soon as somebody isn't someone you want to hang out with for 8 hours a day, things get dicey.
Yeah.
And usually those people don't stay around, you know?
Yeah. Oh my God. Especially whenever feedback starts coming in. Feedback sucks to get no matter what. No matter how nice the person is. It's never... You always want to like hit a home run. And I don't think I've ever hit a home run at work.
No,
ever. Like on any of my
happen.
staff. There's always a critique, and people have like these eagle eyes and they see everything. And so if you're getting feedback for somebody that you already don't really like it just like you just like don't want to do it anymore, and it's like salt in the wound. You're like, oh,
students know what that's like. I mean, we've all been through critiques, and when somebody who you are not a huge fan of critiques your work, and you're just like kind of brush it off. It's the same thing at work. So
yeah. Exactly. I think for me, what I wish I'd known is not to sweat so much about it. Like,
you do sweat so much.
I sweat so much.
It's kind of gross.
We got them on Axe,
sorry.
and even that was an upgrade.
But like, we're making games, and if you're in any kind of artistic field, like, or specifically entertainment, like that, it is what it says it is. It's entertainment. We're not like curing diseases. So it's not the end of the world if you miss a deadline or you miss, or if you mess up on something. Like, it's not gonna end your life and career as you know it. So it helps to not sweat the tiny things as much. And at first, when I first got there, I was like, I don't know even how to check out an asset. I'm gonna lose my job in the next week. And so I learned that quickly, that it was like, it's not that big a deal. Like, people are willing to help. So I started asking a lot more questions, bothering both of you constantly, and got past that point. So knowing that going into it would have probably helped me get my feet under me sooner. Would have been cool.
Yeah. Good answer.
I feel like you kind of hit it out of the park when you got, like, I told you when you first got there, I was like, these first like 2 weeks are going to be really stressful because you're learning proprietary stuff. It's stuff that you can't know before you start working there. But like once you get it, then smooths out really quickly. But there's always stuff that you don't know.
Right.
Even senior artists, like some of our senior artists, I'm sure this is a question that's going to come up later too, but some of our senior artists, like, they don't use ZBrush as much because they've been using Maya forever. And a lot of stuff you can do in ZBrush is relatively new the last few years. You always have to be studying. You always have to look stuff up. You're never going to be up to speed. You just kind of have to come to terms with that early on.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I think once you're like, I just don't know stuff, and that's okay, and then it smooths out.
And that all
easier.
goes back to just making sure that you have a good community around you, because you constantly are leaning on other people to be like, oh, how do you use this new tool in ZBrush? How do you use this thing?
Yeah.
And if they like you, it makes the process a lot more easy.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Nintendo. That was
Cool.
question 1.
Yeah.
So the second one came from Melissa's Twitter post, and this was from user Chini. Twitter user Chini.
Yeah.
So they were saying, I'm currently a student studying art illustration in the Midwest, and my computer's alive.
Yeah.
One of the hardest things is getting opportunities when you're so far removed from California, LA. Companies simply don't come out here. Any tips on how to set yourself apart and how to be resourceful? Really good, specific question. What would you guys say to that?
You have much more experience in this realm than I do.
Well, you kind of too, a little.
A little bit.
I'm from
Texas.
Yeah,
right?
I'm from Texas. I'm from Dallas-Fort Worth. There's like 2 studios there. You can work at id Software or you can work at Gearbox. They just now opened up a Bethesda branch. I don't know what they work on there. They just did that like the last maybe year or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was not a lot of good opportunities. Neither of those companies really wanted anything to do with me. I didn't get any responses for internships or applications or anything like that. I wanted to stay local. I wanted to stay around all my friends and family and stuff like that. But yeah, so I definitely relate. More specifically, I come from Keller, Texas, which is not even Dallas. It's an hour from Dallas.
Oh, man.
And it's the suburbs.
So even if you got a job there, you'd have to like probably leave friends and family, right?
Yeah, I moved towards Dallas for college anyway, but even then, there's not a huge thing. So I think, and a lot of people who are out of the country have it even harder, I would say, because most of the studios are in the U.S. There's a lot of good ones over there in Europe and stuff like that, but
even then it's like one per country.
Yeah, I remember we pulled in the statistics of not just how big the studios are, but how many studios there are.
Sure.
You could take a studio in every single part of the country, combine them all together, and it wouldn't even be I would say it wouldn't even be half or maybe a third of how many are in Seattle and LA.
Yeah.
And San Francisco.
Yeah.
It's just so dense. So going on to the question, tips on how to set yourself apart and be resourceful. The internet is your biggest ally. The internet just completely diminishes any of those walls and separations that people have between each other. When I got my job at Insomniac, I didn't meet any of these people in person. I hadn't been to a GDC before. I hadn't gone to any of these public events ever. Wow. I was all on Twitter. Just Twitter.
Dang. Really?
Yeah, 100%.
Twitter? I wouldn't have expected that at all.
Yeah.
So were they conversations, or were you posting on there and people were responding? How were you using that?
I'm kind of an internet addict. So it was mostly like, it was a healthy mix, I think, of both things. Like, my interactions with people were very genuine, and I talk to people because I really enjoy talking to people. And I get it fuels me. It makes me feel better whenever, especially other students. Talking to other students makes me really happy whenever I was a student, still to this day, but I'm also not a student anymore.
You're a pro now.
It's really strange.
She's emerged, a butterfly.
Yeah, but literally just, okay, so networking on Twitter. Networking meaning just being chill, talking to people as people. And the biggest thing about that is I genuinely believe, and I think that my situation kind of proves it, that if you want something, you need to put it out there, let people know that's what you want, and then just kind of leave it on the table and then go about your own business. And then if you're working towards that goal, people know that's what you want and they want to help you out. Somebody might come along and help you. You know what I mean?
Right. So in your case, what did the first steps of that look like? Did you start looking like, I want to go to these studios, so you started finding people from them and just reaching out directly? Or were you putting out posts that are like, hey guys, I want to work here, hit me up? Like, how did you start that process?
Definitely not the latter. The latter comes off really gross. I highly recommend not doing that. I didn't even know how to use Twitter because I'm actually an 80-year-old woman. So I would just follow other artists who worked at studios that I liked, and then I would see who they were following. Especially people who I only follow 100 people or 300 people. You can scroll through really quick and see who they talk to, and then I would look and see if they were artists. And I started off just following 3D character artists because that's what I wanted to learn, and people like Raf Grassetti and stuff like that, where they post almost nothing but art. Like, they churn that shit out so fast, it's insane. So he was one of the first people I followed. There were other artists. Gavin was one of the first people I started following because he was posting a lot of art focused stuff, and then it kind of diverged into people who shit posts all the time and also do art sometimes and things like that. And
normal
then it just
people.
Normal people, not these insane art printers.
Crazy.
But yeah, so it was a very natural growth. It wasn't anything weird where it's just I'm going to follow this person so that I can get a job from them. It's just I admire what they do. I want to learn from them. And if I could ever work at that studio with this person, that would be really sweet.
Okay.
And it was just kind of stuff like that. And then on top of that, it was me doing my own work, making sure my renders looked really nice for the masses, not just for 3D artists, but for anybody who scrolled by and was like, that's a sweet looking thing of whatever I made. So doing that, and then using Twitter analytics to figure out the best times to post, what days of the week to post, and really
real marketing approach to that.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, you're marketing yourself, which is essentially what looking for a job is.
Yeah.
And so you're playing a numbers game. And so whenever you're posting stuff online for a purpose, like getting a job, you want to be the most efficient with that as possible. And so retweeting your stuff, reposting things, those are both really, really good things to do. And then trying to be the most efficient with as few posts as possible, or working with other people, and then you've pretty much doubled that output.
Yeah.
Things like that.
True.
So it was a mix.
Somewhere between spamming and releasing one thing a year, you're saying. Okay.
Yeah. Now I release one thing a year.
Yeah,
so.
That's after you get the job. That's how it happens.
Pretty much. So I was like, cool, I hit those breaks.
Yeah, I have a follow-up for it, though, is so a lot of times what gets you to a studio is a good connection with a person at that studio. Like, it can be, that's one road.
Sure.
That's kind of the road I took, and I think you had similar.
I would say, it's the same for me.
How do you start building that bridge when you're so far away? You maybe you don't have a network out here. How did you kind of begin that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would think it's safe to say we're all pretty much children of the internet. We were raised on social media platforms and
children.
Yeah, we're also children. Yeah. But we've been using forums to talk to people for almost our entire lives. And so it's nothing new. We know that these other people are real. We talk to them as if they're real people and things like that. So in my mind, there's no difference between making a friend on Twitter and meeting somebody down the street who also works on the same stuff.
Oh, okay.
So you just talk to them as if you would any other person. It sounds really obvious, but
you really think of it as a small world, right?
Yeah,
you're
absolutely.
Using Twitter to say, I'm not just in Texas, really far away from these people. We are all in this community here, and that's how I'm going to bridge the gap.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. In fact, I forget all the time that people don't live down the road from me. Even when I was in Texas, and I knew that there was nobody there. But anytime somebody's like, no, I live on the other side of the country, or no, I live in a totally different country, and I'm just like, oh, right. That's right. Yeah. Because we just talk on Twitter so casually all the time. I'm like, yeah, they're practically next door. And it literally is just as natural as making a friendship. That's the whole thing. It's very simple.
Definitely.
In my mind.
Seems like you've proven Twitter is definitely a good tool. So
I
never would have thought about that, because that is pretty much the only social media I don't use at all.
Right.
But really interesting
I've
to hear
heard people have good luck with Instagram, but I can only do one at a time. I deleted Facebook. I don't have an Instagram. I just
stay focused.
I do
on
one
the
thing.
way.
I have too much stuff.
You've inspired me to want to get into Twitter because it seems like a less
Same.
depressing place than
Oh no,
others.
it's still depressing.
Oh,
Don't
okay,
worry about
cool.
that. But you
Very
can filter
fun.
out
Two
words, and
sides.
that's nice.
That's
Two sides of everything.
Yeah.
So, as a follow-up to this one, Gareth Stanfield had also said, how do you go about networking online? And so my 2 cents on this was, I think competitions are a fantastic way of, as you said, the forums having, to me, that's the place that professionals are looking right now, that students go if you're really trying to succeed and that you're trying to stay on focus. And that also, you get kind of lumped in with other people who are focused in a certain way.
Yeah.
And you can keep each other on track. There's a solid goal. You get a lot of really good feedback. I think I've said this before on other podcasts, but trying to work that in, a lot of times your later years in school, you can say like, hey, we've got a 10-week project coming up. It'll overlap with this ArtStation competition. So let me do this for my class, but also be working on the competition at the same time. Fantastic, 2 birds with 1 stone kind of situation. The other things that I would add, cold messaging worked really, really well for me.
Really?
Just messaging somebody on either Facebook or now ArtStation. ArtStation messaging, I don't think was available when I first did this, but I think 3 years ago, 2 weeks into my first character class, I messaged this guy who I considered and still consider to be like one of the greats in my mind. And he just got back to me. I mean, it was one of those situations where I didn't really have that much art out. It wasn't like he was looking at that and saying, whoa, this guy, he's going to be great. I think it was probably just how I approached it. And the fact that, I mean, maybe I got lucky with that one too, but if he hadn't responded, I would have messaged other people. And at some point, somebody's going to have a free night and they'll hit you back.
Exactly.
And in that case, he responded with the Grassetti tutorials, and that launched.
Okay.
So fantastic
all of us are
resource.
like, Raf Grassetti.
Yeah.
So that's a really good one. And the third piece that I would add is that going back to just standard networking, GDC was the launch pad for my Insomniac career. That's where I met Gavin in person. And so becoming a conference associate there, there's no way I was going to be able to buy a ticket on my own.
It's like awesome.
But between leveraging a scholarship from Champlain and getting a conference associate pass, they covered everything. I didn't spend a single penny between the plane ride, meals, the staying at a hotel.
Yeah.
If you're strategic about it, and like the first question from Chini was asking, how do you become resourceful? It's looking for those little opportunities. Because at first glance, you say $2,000 ticket, plane ride, all this stuff. No way I can afford it as a student. Totally true. But there's probably a way that you can put the pieces together. There are usually resources out there if you really want to succeed. So go search for them.
I have 2 questions for you, actually.
Go for it.
Do you remember what you said in your cold call or whatever? Because I know some students have troubles with it where their cold call genuinely comes off as kind of cold and very robotic versus one that's more warm and sincere where it's just like, hey, your stuff is really, really cool. I genuinely want to know like some tips and tricks, which I think most professionals want to answer those kinds. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Do you know what you said?
Well, I should actually look back at it. I don't think I've ever seen, but I know that kind of following with what you were just saying, it was short and sweet. It was probably a like, dude, you're a god. How do I get like you? Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Flattery works.
Yes.
Definitely.
Definitely butter them up a little bit.
But I can kind of answer a little bit of that. Around the time I started looking for that internship at Insomniac, I was fortunate enough to meet some Insomniacs at an event that I was at. But regardless of that, I went home and messaged each of them like instantly, like I think it was 5 different artists. And one of them was Enrique, our lead character artist at Insomniac. And I just said like, hey, it was great meeting you. I'm looking into this internship thing. Like I hope to hear from you guys or something like that. And then a few weeks later, I was working on some stuff and I ran into an issue. I was like, I don't know how to do this thing on this character. And I was like, who better to ask than a professional character artist? So I sent him some shots of what I was working on and be like, how would you guys tackle this at work? How do you do this maybe in your personal pieces? And he really got back to me with a good chunk of information. And that was like instantly like there's a bridge there. He knows my work. I know his work. We're talking and sharing resources. And it just, we kept doing that for a while. And then I eventually got into Insomniac and was able to like thank him in person like for all the help. But I think just taking that first step and sending your work can definitely be a good in.
Yeah. And I think having a specific question also really helps too. Because now I think about it, I actually did the same thing. Xavier, who used to be a character artist at Insomniac, and now he's gone off to a different company. I did the same thing with him, now that I remember. Because we were just Twitter mutuals. And then I sent him a message. I was like, hey man, can you just like look over my model and like red pin the shit out of it? I was like, you can be brutal with it, like tear it apart. I don't care. I was like, I need to know everything that you see wrong with it.
Right.
And the first thing he asked me was, is this for school? Like, is this a school assignment that your teacher is asking you to ask me? And I said, no, what?
Oh wow.
Yeah. I was like, no, I just need, like, I just wanted an eye on it. And he's like, you got it. And then he all these messages of like, I would fix this and this and this. This looks really good, but you should do that. This is kind of crispy over here. And like,
oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was having a specific thing, and like, I did not have an assignment make me do it. I genuinely wanted his perspective on it. And then,
being proactive like that is big. And don't be discouraged if it doesn't happen like that the first time. You know, like most artists are willing to help. Sometimes people are just really busy.
Yeah.
So reaching out to multiple artists is a really good way to, you know, hedge your bets.
Yeah.
In worst case scenario, you get too much feedback and too many connections. Oh no, that's a good place to be in.
I've even helped like a cosplayer. I did an Overwatch fan art thingy, and a cosplayer was asking me like, how did you make the wings on this and stuff like that? And I was like, oh, let me help you. Like, I'll be more than happy to type out a whole thing, and it wasn't like, didn't come off weird or anything like that. It was very, very chill. It's my first question I got in the industry, which I was super jazzed about.
Yeah, doesn't that first
That's
one
a big
feel
one.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, me?
I'm on the other side of the bridge.
Yeah,
my god.
It was really bizarre. It's still weird.
So let's jump on
you
to
missed the third one.
I was actually going to jump onto this one and then come back so we can keep some variety in here. So we might come back to another one for networking, but we're going to jump ahead to some portfolio questions.
Okay.
So let's start with this one here. This was any tips on making your portfolio or resume stand out. I'll actually start with this, which was I had pretty much Googled that question, and there was a post on ArtStation from this year's GDC where Gavin, our lead, and a bunch of other people, every year they do this incredible portfolio review day, and they start it, I think they usually do it before they have a panel. And ArtStation took the top 10 responses, distilled them with a couple different quotes, super fast read, and really, really good information. So definitely check that one out. That's just going to be in the show notes
I
here.
want to check that out. Like, that sounds really cool.
Yeah, there are a couple like refresher things, or just you're looking at it from a hiring manager point of view at that point. Yeah. And it's very, very valuable. So I don't know if you guys have some other things that just pop into your mind, but I think that's that covers huge. A lot of stuff for that question
definitely.
Too.
I've got a big one.
Yeah, go
for it.
Do it.
It's what I leveraged because it made sense to me, but try to hit as many, try to hit as many styles, quote unquote.
That's what I did.
As you can.
I
think a lot of things that I see students do, people tend to fall into their style and they get really proud over, I have a style. But the reality is, if you're a student, you're probably not at the level where you can put yourself in that kind of basket. Like, if you're trying to get a job, you need to be flexible, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you build a portfolio that has a little of everything. In my case, I was like, all right, I did an alien stylized thing bartender guy. I did a realistic fantasy night lady. I did a present day like zombie apocalypse survivor dude. And then I would do different projects to kind of fill in the gaps between those. But I think at the end of the day, like, it was a portfolio that I could take multiple places and have a better chance of getting in. You know what I mean? Whereas I know some people who are like, I just want to work at Blizzard, and they only do a Blizzard portfolio, and then that's the only thing they can offer. Yeah. And then they've kind of cut themselves off from tons of other places. You know what I mean? Yeah. That can be a pigeonhole that people fall into. I've seen it happen, and I would say try to avoid that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I did the same exact thing. I had, because even though like I did half of my portfolio is Blizzard fan art, honestly.
That's all right.
But it was like, one of them was a hand-painted World of Warcraft character, and it was just like a little corgi bard thing.
Very
He's
awesome, by the way.
Super chubby and super cute. And then no one even does hand painting except for World of Warcraft nowadays. It feels like, unless you're indie, I guess. Then another was like trying to match Overwatch's style. Another one was trying to match more realistic style. And so I also had the variety.
Yeah,
I had
exactly.
I just had those 3 pieces in there. That was it.
Yeah, and it just does wonders for when you actually are going to look for a place and you're like, oh, I have one of my pieces matches similar to what they're doing there.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like I'm in a different ballpark. You know what I mean?
And even if it doesn't match, if you can prove, I have the eye to see what they're going for this style, and I can hit that, but I can also hit this and I can hit that because I can discern the differences. Then they'll be like, then you can pivot just fine on this project.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that kind of covers my only other point, which is that good art is good art.
Yeah.
And whether you take, last week we talked to Evan, right, who had a very specific style, and he admitted it was kind of a weakness that he did only Star Wars stuff, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time,
It's risky.
even if he hadn't gotten that job there, he has just killer work.
Yeah.
So he could have gone somewhere else, and
Absolutely.
they could see that he's a great artist.
Right.
So there are definitely different approaches, and just check out those top 10.
Yeah.
And I've got one more thing.
Go for it, man.
Specifically for making game characters, do the whole thing.
Oh yeah.
Don't
You have
just
to.
stop at the high poly sculpt.
No.
You've got to do the low poly, the UVs, the texturing, get it in a game engine, the whole 9 yards. Because at the end of the day, you're probably going to start in a position where you're just the production side of things, where you're just doing the latter half and not so much the beginning half. With all the fun like concepting and sculpting and whatnot. And so you need to show that you can do those technical, some would say tedious steps, because it's just such an employable thing to be able to do.
Yeah.
Very important.
I think I made a post on Twitter saying that I liked unwrapping UVs, and then like a few weeks later, Xavier was like, "There's a post coming up for a new job. You should apply for it." And I think that was the post where he was like, "She's a sadist. Like, just get her in there."
Yeah.
We have some work for her.
Yeah.
Like unwrapping UVs.
I do. It's you just turn your brain off.
It's true.
And it's like a puzzle. You just put in.
I get real good podcast hours in at those
Yeah,
times.
that's great. You can actually like listen to it instead of thinking.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Don't put unfinished work in your portfolio. If you do, it better be some baller ass shit, and like it better be just the one.
Yeah.
Even then, I would take it out. It needs to be finished. It has to be finished.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just remembering something
Keep going,
I learned.
man.
I'm just remembering something I learned about portfolios. And that was
Did
like,
you know they want one for jobs? Ew.
who'd have thought? No, but I was in my last few terms at school. We had a lot of like portfolio building classes and career realities classes and stuff like that. And we had a guy come in and talk to us about portfolios, and his had gotten him more job interviews than I thought was possible. He has so many interviews because his portfolio was so strong. And what he said, and this is more technical, but the structure of your portfolio should be strongest piece first and a really strong piece at the end. The middle stuff matters, but to be real, not as much, because people will like the first piece is what's going to get them to continue looking through it, and the last piece is going to be the one that sticks in their mind, because that's just how our brains work. We remember the first and the last usually, unless there's something crazy in the middle that happens to catch someone's eye. But that first and last piece are huge.
How many pieces did y'all have in your portfolios? I had 3.
I believe I had 10.
10?
Yeah.
That's so many. Okay.
Yeah, because I'm kind of in between both of you.
I
I
had-
had some like only high poly stuff, but
Okay,
finished
yeah,
character
true.
was probably 4. I don't know.
4
something
finished
around that.
characters?
Yeah.
Were
Yeah,
all of
okay.
yours
I was
finished?
4 finished like in game engine characters, and then some other stuff in the middle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You just told them not to do just sculpts. And
Show that you can do. You have to have those finished pieces if you want to put those. those
Okay.
pieces
Okay.
in. That's what I mean.
In my mind, I feel like you should really only have finished pieces. But I guess you guys prove that's not. I don't know. I'm not a hiring manager. None of us are. I think we should keep that in mind. But I think we've had good enough practices. Obviously, we got jobs.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like, and sometimes like I threw in those other pieces to kind of show personality and what I'm interested in doing, because my finished pieces are only a piece of my puzzle, right?
Sure.
But definitely don't overload it, right? Like
Yeah.
have those 3 to 4 amazing finished things, and then if you want to throw a few other things that you really think are strong, do that too.
Yeah, and it comes down to how you present that. If you're saying
Yeah.
this is a part of my process, yes, I understand this is not a finished character. Even then, if you're just showing a high res, you're still doing nice renders of it. It's still looking like a piece of art. It might just not be finished.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you just want that to be as attractive as possible.
Yeah.
You want every piece of art in there to be a piece of art.
Yeah.
Make
Yes.
it beautiful.
Totally agree.
Exactly.
I do have one more thing as well.
Keep going.
This
Yeah.
is-
No, that's all right. Keep rolling. Be here all night.
I remember one thing I saw whenever me and like my colleagues or whatever, we had portfolio reviews. We had a guy from id come down and do reviews, and a guy from Gearbox, the only two studios in DFW. But they were nice enough to come down and look at portfolios and stuff like that. And me and my classmates, we were looking at each other's portfolios and like just kind of checking out what everybody was up to and stuff like that. And I cannot tell you how many of my classmates had the same fucking briefcase that we all were supposed to make in class.
Oh yeah.
Don't
do that.
don't put your classwork in your portfolio, because even if it's like the best thing you've ever made, one, it's not going to be the best thing you've ever made because you were working in class. You can make something better next time. And two, it's also the best thing that like 20 other kids just in your class have made. So it's if it's a class of 30 kids and maybe there's like 10 of those classes going out that semester, that's 300 kids who have all made the same fucking suitcase.
Yep.
Even if you take 10% of that, that's 30 portfolios who have that suitcase in there.
Yeah.
And they're all applying to Blizzard. They're all applying to Riot. They're all applying to Insomnia. You know what I mean? Like, they're all going to the same places you're trying to go.
Exactly.
You've just lost a spot in your portfolio with the same stuff that they just saw 29 other ones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And if you are looking to set your portfolio apart, the last thing you want to do is have a repeat piece from someone else. That's a big
that's
no-no.
the opposite of standing out.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
definitely don't do that. It doesn't mean like if you have a capstone or whatever. I had capstones in mine, but those were my concepts that I picked out.
Sure.
It wasn't assigned.
Right.
I picked them.
Yeah.
So it was a unique one. It's no different than if I went home and did the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those
That's a
are more
different type of
unique. Yeah,
assignment.
exactly. Yeah.
Don't put an exercise, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you're assigned to do a game character, right, and you get to choose whatever you want, then you can put it in your portfolio. But if it's like if you make a briefcase off of this concept, if that's your assignment, don't put that in.
Don't put it up.
Yeah. Good
What's
point.
the
Very good point.
one? There's a Dishonored sculpt head that a school does. I've never been to this school. I don't know what it is, but I know about the Dishonored sculpt because it is so popular in portfolios because it's a really cool concept and it looks really cool in sculpt.
One?
I never played Dishonored. I
Oh
don't know.
no, there's a concept artist.
It's a dude with a.
He's got like cuts on his face.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably a Cedric concept, and
Yeah.
his stuff is huge. And like that was, I guess, one of the things that I tried to avoid was doing concepts that I know had already been done
Oh, in 3D.
in 3D.
Yeah.
Because like then what happens when your portfolio comes up against somebody else who did that concept?
It did better.
And theirs is better.
Yeah.
You're done.
I thought about that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I went for lesser known concept artists, but like which I think hurt my like ArtStation appeal. Like they didn't get as many clicks or whatever.
I never look at my
Right.
ArtStation.
If you care about that, it's a thing.
No, I know what you mean though.
Right.
Yeah, I get it.
But I think as far as portfolio goes, that's better than having having one piece that 8 other people have done and may have done better. you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that. And it all just goes back to how you're talking about the marketing. It's like, how are you positioning yourself? How are you setting up your brand, making sure that you're set apart from other people?
Exactly.
Think about the full context of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this next question overlaps a little bit with the portfolio and setting goals and choosing where you're going. This one came from Isabella King, who's back at Champlain, I believe. They asked, is it better to specialize or become a jack of all trades? What do you guys think about that question, given the industry context right now? What do you think?
That's hard.
Yeah.
Let's take that one.
Go ahead.
No, it's too late. You already started.
My gut reaction is specialize, but only to a point. Like, don't just be the guy who sculpts amazing noses. That's too specialized. You're not going to find a job.
But it's so good.
Yeah, the best noses in the world.
Wow. Incredible.
It's like a Fibonacci circle in the nostril. It's crazy.
Wow.
So
Just
don't be
Colton's
that
name.
special. specialize. Don't be that special. But also, don't go too general, because then it's hard to get a sense of what you're good at.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you're like, I can do VFX, I can do environments, I can do characters, I can do post-processing, I can do concepting. If you have all of that in your portfolio, it's too much.
Yeah, that's a lot.
They're going to go, all right, I only care about one of these things if I'm looking for a character artist, correct? So specialize in that, like, I want to be a character artist, or I want to be an environment artist, or I want to be a concept artist. And I think once you get to that point, that's specialized enough. Have a specific job in mind and specialize in that job.
Yeah.
Right? So that's my gut thought about that.
And I think it's also good to note that all three of us work at a AAA studio. So we all specialized in what we did. A lot of people who are in indie, they're more jack of all trades, but even then, I would say they specialize in their thing, and then maybe someone else helps pull the rest of it up.
They usually have a really strong background in something specific, and then while they were working in a AAA place, they branch out and then they go indie.
Yeah,
exactly.
But I think as a student, even if you're specializing in something, you're not really going to be a pro at it.
Nope, that's a very good point.
You should pick something to focus on and learn as much about that as possible.
Yeah.
Because the end of the jack of all trades, phrase is master of none.
Exactly.
And you don't really want to be in that position where you don't know how to do anything. You just know how to do a little bit of everything. But these all bleed into each other too. Is like to be a good character artist, you need to know a little bit about rigging. So you know good mesh flow, and you need to know a little bit about what's a good concept and what's a bad concept, or like what's what is it? It's the thing that Xavier and Jason call where like a concept doesn't work in 3 dimensions. It's the staircase thing.
I don't know.
Oh shit! I'll think about it.
Teach me that. Yeah.
I'll think about it. It's the artist that does the crazy, like the triangle staircase.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
he does all the weird bugs, right?
Yeah,
he was my favorite when I was a kid.
Oh well,
how am I forgetting him?
Escher,
yes, and
MC
Escher,
Gosh.
an MC Escher concept.
Yeah,
where it's like this looks really cool in 2D, and then you try doing it in 3D. You're like, this is not physically possible.
Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so I mean. And even as a 3D artist, you do need to know how to concept stuff a little, because, like, I'd say probably 90% of the time, we don't get a back concept. We just get the front.
Just the front.
We just get the front. If we're lucky, we might get a side as well.
Right.
But
which is, I think, sometimes a blessing, right?
It is. It's fun. You get to do stuff.
Exactly. Like, a lot of us started out in this field, like, going, I want to do concept art, because we drew a lot as a kid. And so, like, whenever I get just a front view, I'm like, oh, I get to practice my drawing. And I go and draw, like, a something on the back and send it off to the concept artist.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, this looks cool, do this and this. And then you're off to the races on the concept you made.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is really fun.
So I don't think there is such a thing as being a true specialist.
Right.
In it. Right. Just by being there, you have to know other stuff.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I've heard from a lot of people who become more and more specialized that sometimes when they become the hair guy or the cape guy, they get stuck in that area too. And that's not always a happy place to be, unless you love just making capes or love just making hair. I think we would also all agree that there are certain things like the drawing that when it goes back to your fundamentals, those are the more general trade skills that will positively impact everything else that you're learning, right? Every single part of art is going to, if you become better at sketching, it's also going to help with those other things.
Right.
So there are sort of some, like if you're like, well, I don't want to just specialize on this thing. I want to make sure that I'm expanding in another direction. There are always some like tried and true old school fundamentals you can jump back to that will always have a guaranteed payoff.
Yeah. Absolutely.
What I was going to say, like, especially when it comes to those fundamentals, like you can't shirk anything. I think for a bit, I thought like, I'm going to be a character artist, so I don't need to learn perspective as well. But I was so wrong in that. You need to know perspective. You need to know how to draw. You need to know how to draw a landscape if you want to do characters. In some weird way, they play into each other. So you should learn all of that. And like no amount of fundamental knowledge is too much. Yeah. Right?
Absolutely. Even I think Jason mentioned this in his, where, was it Jason? Probably. Anyway, where 2D artists are now using 3D in their stuff. And when we texture now with Substance Painter, like we need to know how to draw stuff too, you know?
Exactly.
So you're drawing directly on it. Even in ZBrush, we draw stuff on it. It's the same
drawing is still like the core pillar that we built our careers off of.
Mm-hmm.
True.
I think.
Pretty much. Just an extra dimension.
Exactly. Exactly.
We just have to keep drawing it 4 times. That's the only thing.
So speaking of practice and drawing lots, Twitter user Jojo Jangles.
I love that.
That is
Awesome
a great name.
It said, what are some personal best practices or some exercises you always go back to for learning and practice? And I also left, what other favorite resources might you guys have?
Okay.
What are some exercises, things you go back to? We like.
I think one thing I learned, I didn't know until I started working here, but one thing I learned that's the thing that you kind of want to exercise the most is your eye. Because your hands will pretty much do whatever you tell it to do, and so you can keep sculpting like it's like these things. You can keep sculpting and adding pores and stuff like that, and be like, oh yeah, this looks a little bit better than the last time I did it and stuff like that. But when you're training your eye, that's something totally different. It's like a whole other part of your brain that you're unlocking. And honestly, like having Leroy tear my stuff apart at work, like it just like opened up my third eye. I was like, wow, this stuff looks like shit I never knew before. Incredible. Now I see.
Exactly.
And like my art has advanced so much in these last few months compared to these years of drawing and sculpting and all this stuff. I think there was a video that Flip Normals just did not that long ago about training your eye. If you want to
link that.
Yeah, it was really, really good. And he's like, just do a quick and dirty sculpt, like from your memory. Do one while looking at a reference. Do it again from your memory, and then do it a 4th time.
Oh wow,
using it.
That's a really cool
it was just
exercise.
like he would do it for like an hour sculpt, another hour sculpt, something like that.
Wow.
And I was just like, that's probably the most efficient way to do this, rather than just trying to hit the pavement and just like going in there. And because I'm all for that. That's how I learn stuff, is just getting in there and start digging stuff out. You know what I mean?
Well, when you just said you got all this amazing, honest feedback from Leroy, how would you go about that if you were a student and you wanted to get professional, honest, hard, sometimes really challenging to hear feedback?
Yeah.
If you don't have Leroy sitting across from you.
Leroy.
We miss you, buddy.
There is always, you will always be able to get feedback. That is not in any shortage. People love telling other people what's wrong with something that they just made.
You gotta be ready to take it though.
You gotta be in a mental place to take it. So you can do what we did, where we asked a professional artist and we reached out and we were like, hey, you have a good eye for stuff. I like the stuff you do. Can you just destroy this with critique? You can ask the general Twitter. That's fine too, but asking the general public in that sense, like, it is very important that people like your stuff, because you're selling your art. This is commercial art. However, not everybody knows how to give constructive feedback, or they may not know how to put into words exactly what's wrong with what they see. They can only tell you that something looks wrong, but they can't tell you what it is. And so with that one, you have to like be able to pull apart the good critiques from the bad ones, and that's a whole other skill set to learn. So I mean, you can go either of those routes. I've definitely done both. Twitter it's the easiest, fastest way to get feedback in my opinion, but I think doing that and also asking a professional, I think those are really good ways to get that critique.
You just got to look for it and put it out there. If you're working in a vacuum, you won't get anything back.
You just gotta get over it. You're gonna get feedback. It's just the nature of it, and you can't put your self-worth into your work, which is really hard, because as artists, that's just naturally what we do. Any artist in any field. And so it's hard to hear that something that you worked really, really hard on isn't perfect. But I mean, if you never expect yourself to be perfect, then you really won't get let down, I don't think. And if you keep doing it, if you keep getting feedback, it kind of stings a little bit less every time. At a point, you just go like, no, they're not trying to hurt me, they're just trying to help me. And that's something important to note. I know when I was in school and like people would give me feedback on my anime drawings, I would cry. Cry because I was like, I tried really hard on this and it looks so good, and nobody thinks that.
Well, it's a personal process.
100%.
Because that's a really, really important question for any artist. What are some ways that you guys have learned to deal with taking feedback, because we know that's the best way to learn, right? But as you said, we wrap ourselves up in these pieces.
Yeah.
It's sometimes really hard to hear this feedback.
Yeah.
So have you guys picked up some good tips for when you're getting that critique, you're bracing yourself?
Well, this one goes back to when we had our first talk, and I told you about that I'm not special story.
Yeah.
Where I had a teacher basically tell me like I took something to heart that I shouldn't have, and he basically said like, you're not special, don't internalize it. And that's just stuck with me, and to the point now where like, if I was special, I might be able to do something on the first try. If I was special, this might be the perfect piece when I'm showing it to somebody, but I'm not. So I should expect that there's going to be a level of change that is going to be offered to me. So anytime I offer it to someone, I'm like, I'm offering my piece to them for feedback because I know that things need to be improved.
Sure, yeah.
And even at work, when someone just walks up behind me and starts looking at it, I know in the back of my mind that this isn't done, it's not perfect, there's places to be improved, and any perspective on how to get it better is a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't always have to accept every piece of feedback you get, but every piece of feedback comes with at least another perspective on what you're getting or what you're doing.
It's another data point, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. It's just another data point. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think also being able to take these comments as putting yourself in the mindset of somebody is taking the time out of their day to try and help you improve something. And it sucks to hear feedback, but it's actually very generous that somebody would try and help you like that. And especially like if you're when you ask for it. Having a critique thrown at you when you don't ask for it, that's a totally other thing, and it's a little bit rude. But when you need help, or when you're at work or things like that, or if you ask for critique, they're trying to help you, and they want you to improve, and they want you to excel as much as possible. Definitely. And so it's seeing it as a kindness also really helps, just switching that little mindset.
I do think that we should talk more about that when you don't ask for feedback and you get feedback. That can really rub people the wrong way, which I totally understand.
I also get rubbed the wrong way when I get unsolicited feedback.
It's a good opportunity to practice just letting things roll off.
Exactly,
because that's a time.
That's essentially what it is.
Yeah,
it's just like,
just
don't say anything.
Right. I didn't ask for anything. Maybe it's just like somebody's parent who's chiming in too. They have no artistic background, but you still kind of like feel the jab. That's a really good, just look at it as a growth opportunity for your personality, right?
Exactly.
That's such a PR term.
I would also say the flip side to this is when you practice giving critiques to other people, remember the mindset that you're in, that you're balancing the kindness and the honesty, but you're also reminding yourself in that moment that, I am not attacking this person here. And remember, when I'm getting feedback, I also can remember that the person who's giving me feedback is not talking about me personally. It's about the artwork. And that disconnect can help create just the space that you need to not get emotionally damaged every time you get a good piece of feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like on something like a further step and more of kind of a lifestyle thing.
Lifestyle tips, folks.
You should really do more than just art in your life. Like you should get other hobbies, and you should diversify things that you identify with. If you only identify as an artist, if you only identify as a sculptor, when somebody is critiquing that thing, it's the only identity that you have.
That's a great point.
And
it's
so
a big blow.
If you see yourself like, I'm a sculptor, but I'm also a dog owner. I'm a fiance. I like to cook. I like to bake. I like to play games and stuff like that. Like, like if somebody critiques one of these things, I have 5 other legs to lean on. You know what I mean? Like even that gets knocked down. I could lose like half of those things and still have a sturdy foundation to stand on. That would suck. I would be at a very low point in my life, but
you're
I'm
that
still
Nick,
standing.
you could just lose that fiance
I know. He's like, I'll just leave then. Fine. The fiance leg is sturdier than most.
That's the thick leg. That's the important one.
Yeah.
You gotta keep that.
But that's a really, really good point.
Yeah. I think and just in general for anything, like don't put all your eggs in one basket. And
there's more to life than art.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you're a student, it's hard to remember that sometimes. But
especially
it's true.
when your job is also art. Like,
it's something
do something else.
Every guest that we've had on has always gone back to it, and it's the classic work-life balance piece. And it's so important to keep in mind.
Yep.
And it's sometimes hard.
It's very integral.
So this one came from Twitter user. I tried to copy and paste this into like a text-only notepad because I was trying to figure
I
out.
think it's an S.
Daniel Stahl?
Yeah.
It's a stall. Oh,
That's an
I thought
S.
that was a G.
I wrote it Danik Etal.
Oh, it's
Okay.
that.
Nope.
It's the guy with the cool calligraphy.
It's like the Gothic
Yes,
font.
Gothic font.
Yeah.
I think it's Daniel Stahl.
I think it's an S, yeah.
This
Yeah.
guy was
Daniel
saying,
Stahl.
how do you
Daniel
deal with the anxiety of people around you being young and way ahead in their field? And that's a really good specific question, but the broader piece to that also is just saying, how do I not compete with the other people in my class?
Mhm.
How do I not just constantly compare myself to the people around me?
Yeah.
I think those are some of the broader narratives around his question.
Yeah.
Somebody want to take a stab at that one?
I think I'm the oldest one here. So
As an elder.
I'm
in
an
our group,
elder, so I shall speak first.
Your wise words.
Yeah. So I'm probably like 10 years older than the other college students. Whenever I was going through, I changed my degree so many times, and like I fucking took a few years off. I did all this other shit, and then by the time I graduated, it's literally like 10 years.
Yeah.
Like think this next year is my 10-year graduation. What's it called? Graduation 10-year anniversary thing. Whatever.
The
For my
10-year
high school.
anniversary.
10-year
Whatever.
10-year
That's
anniversary.
all I know.
I don't know. I thought there was a word for it.
Centennial? No, that's 100.
Oh, centennial, yeah.
Centennial.
Oh, I'm much older than these other students. But anyway, no, yeah, I was older than the other students I was going to college with, and I definitely felt it in just the way I don't know how to explain this without sounding like condescending or anything, but
Let
like
her rip.
even when I was in my younger 20s, I was a lot more uncomfortable with myself and unsure and
yeah.
like wanting more validation from outward. And as an older student, granted, this isn't everybody, this is just me, but going in, like I felt like I was a lot more self-confident than maybe a lot of the other students around me. And so like I had all these different experiences that they hadn't yet. Like,
Yeah.
so it definitely felt it. Like I was closer in age to my professors than I was the students. I was older than one of the professors who had his master's degree, and I was like, I think I'll die. Like, it's fine. It's fine. But there's also other students there who were much older than me.
Yeah.
You know, they had kids and stuff like that, or like they were going back to school, and I never thought anything about them. So why would anybody think anything about me? And you know,
Yeah.
nobody even knew that I was older. You know what I mean? Like I knew.
Yeah.
So I just didn't really think about it that much.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
Shit happens. I'm not in any hurry. Like, even, I mean, it doesn't matter. It
Yeah.
really, that's the
I think
whole
of
gist.
all of the pieces that go into being a professional in any field, your age is probably one of the least important,
Yeah.
especially in our field. And I think a good way to look at it is that like everybody is on a step, right? Like we all started day one at the bottom of the staircase, and we've just been climbing at whatever rate we climb at naturally. And so whatever step you're on is just, that's where you're at.
Yeah,
There's
it is
no
what
point-
it is.
There's no point in looking up or down the staircase and going like, why am I not there? Because
Yeah.
like, it's not going to change, where you're at right now. So regardless of how old or young or whatever you are, just focus on what you're doing now and try to get better at it. And, maybe someday somebody way older than you will join and you'll be ahead of them, or
Yeah.
vice versa. It really doesn't matter as long as you're trying to be the best artist that you can be and get ahead
Yeah.
as much as you can.
And it's funny too, because like, it seems to be like, the stair step analogy that you're
Yeah.
giving, nobody ever looks down the stairs.
It's true.
And they compare it to how far they've come.
Yeah.
It seems to be people just look at the daunting mileage they have ahead of them rather than
Exactly.
just be like in their moment, you know what I mean? And just working on getting to that next one rather than focusing on all those ones up there or
Exactly.
appreciating all the ones that you've already passed, you know?
Right.
It's just perspective,
Yeah.
you know?
And I think, especially like for this specific question of dealing with the anxiety of people around you being young and way ahead in their field, I would assume that means that they're in the same field as Daniel or whoever,
Mr. Stahl.
Mr. Stahl. I'm assuming that means you're looking at somebody, that's close by you. And I would really like to think that you can ask that person for help. no matter what age someone is, they have valuable information to
Yeah.
offer. And if you think that they're doing something better than you are, or they have something that you wish you could do, ask them how they do it, you know?
Yeah.
It was really nice. Like, it's really nice to help people. Like, I like helping people, and I think most people like helping people.
Yeah.
So if someone's younger than you, and you can go up and be like, hey, how do you do this way? And I'm sure that they'll offer
Yeah,
their
100%.
guidance. Yeah.
And
And it'll make them feel fucking awesome.
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
we were
Like
talking
that
about
also.
earlier, sorry, I kicked it. Like we were talking about earlier, this industry, the tech moves so fast that you being new in the field is not a disadvantage at all. It is really good. And granted, like sometimes school stuff can be outdated, but you're learning like the newest tools that are coming in and things like that. You have stuff to offer. Even if you're new in the field, you've got this fresh material.
Right.
And so like Leroy and them like learned from you, like all these ZBrush shortcuts and stuff like that, and like vice versa. We have a lot to learn from like Leroy and Henrique and
Exactly.
stuff, you know?
It's a two-way street.
It's not a disadvantage at all.
No.
Yeah. And I think for me, a big breakthrough happened when I came back from my semester in Montreal, and I had made the shift to realizing that I was not competing with any of the people who were actually around me. I was not competing with any students.
not at all.
When
Right.
you have your goals set, when you figured out the right bar that you're aiming for, it becomes a lot more enjoyable to spend time around other students too, because you suddenly see them as comrades and you're all in this battle together.
Yeah.
And you can all help each other get there,
Yeah.
rather than, I mean, the fact is they aren't going to be the reason that you don't get a job,
Yeah.
right? There are
Right.
going to be other factors that play into it. So using them and focusing on becoming the best that you can be, like you both said, that's the best time investment.
Yeah,
Right.
100%. Yeah.
This goes back to networking, but building off of what you're saying is, I was constantly reminded at Noman, like, look around you. This is your network.
Yeah.
These students are the ones who are going to be your network through your career.
Yeah, our school said the same thing.
Yeah. So, like, sure, you're all going for jobs in the same field, and there's maybe some competition there, but more than anything, once you guys get in those positions, now you're a web and you can help each other rise faster.
Yeah.
You know, like someday one of my friends from Noman could be at a position and offer me something to move up, or me vice versa. You know, it's all a web together at that point.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't
Him and his
don't
Noman
compete.
crew.
I know. I'm
So elite.
I'm a pretty like vocal advocate against not going to college, but that is one of the biggest benefits of going to college is having that network.
Yeah.
Right.
That
So
is
use it.
such a huge thing. So if
Use
you
it.
are in college and you are committed to going to it, then you have to take advantage of it, or else you're wasting a lot of valuable time and resources.
That's
Oh,
a
yeah.
great point.
Yeah,
Very big.
Yeah.
I hate college. It sucks.
The truth comes out.
So, yeah.
Someone had to say it. So bold.
So this is a bit of a pivot, but what do you think about this one? Biggest mistake that you see students making right now?
Ooh.
Right.
What have you seen right now in this moment?
I'm trying to think of stuff that we have not already said.
We've gone over quite a few. I mean, even if you're going back to out
Yeah.
of all of those, what was the number one? What are some things that come to mind?
Biggest mistake.
Because I think a big one is probably, here, I can start with mine because I wrote it down and I can remember it right now
Yeah.
what these guys are thinking.
Yeah. I had mine.
When I was thinking about this question, I suddenly had that Eminem song,
Stan.
Lose Yourself,
Oh.
pop into my head. Stan. And I stood up, raised my hand. No, that you have one shot. I had this sudden flashback.
One
This is
opportunity.
sing it, boys.
I like it.
No, but there's an element of truth to this.
Oh, yeah,
And-
yeah.
And the flashback that I had was to that senior year when it was coming up to the end of the year, and there are all these networking opportunities coming up where there are recruiters coming. I understand that some people who are listening are not in situations where this is happening, but even then, there are going to be opportunities you'll get.
Oh, yeah.
That being said, if in my situation, there were these incredible networking opportunities happening, and there were people I know who who were so excited about it or nervous, they would get trashed the night before their interview.
Oh,
Or
oh no.
they wouldn't they just wouldn't leverage the opportunity nearly as much as they could have. Even if they were kind of on their game, they showed up around the right time, they didn't talk to the person who was giving a presentation at the end. They didn't actually approach them. They didn't try to make a LinkedIn connection and follow up afterwards. Every one of those little things, at the moment you can say, maybe this isn't going to go anywhere, but you reach out consistently again and again and again, and those are the moments that you're suddenly just going to have a breakthrough. You can never know when that moment is going to happen. But those are the most valuable. When you have an in-person thing especially, those are so valuable to leverage.
There's something weird, like when you see somebody in person, it solidifies like, not only is this person real, but I'm so much more empathetic towards them. Like I have my internet friends, but like meeting them in person, it just like makes it like this concrete thing. It's so weird.
And they can't turn you down the same way that they might just ignore an email, right?
Exactly.
If you go up to them with your big puppy dog eyes, I'm just a poor student.
My name's Colton. Can you look at my portfolio, please?
Well, that was spot on impression.
I know.
Wow.
I know. You thought that was Colton twice.
How did you transfer your voice? That's crazy.
Got the low voice and everything.
So I think, in thinking about it right now, something that I think I see students doing is, this is gonna sound probably a little mean, but is acting
Do it, Damon. Stab.
Is acting like students. You know? So
I know exactly what you mean, but I can't verbalize it. Like, I don't know how to phrase.
So there's this level of I want to say immaturity, and I'm sorry if this offends people, but you've got to understand that you're a student. Yes, but you want to be a professional. So you got to act like it. Like, I think when you're a freshman or, just getting into college, that's when you need to start learning what it means to take yourself, your art, and the world around you a lot more seriously, and start presenting yourself as a professional as soon as possible. Because a lot of times, the whole adage is fake it till you make it. Like, if you start pretending like I am a professional artist 3 years before you even get a job, you're so far ahead because you've just matured so much more in that time than someone who's like, I'm a student, I'm going to party all the time, and I'm going to go out and be loud in public and be a young person,
So young yourself.
I
love it. No, I know what you mean. You're absolutely right, but it's just very funny.
It's like a lot of times I would work at school or something, and students around me would just be goofing off and not really taking things seriously. And they were doing themselves a huge disadvantage by doing so, because like, we're paying so much money and spending so much time to be here. Like, we have to take it seriously. And like, from I think I asked a teacher once, like, I want to be a character artist, but I know it's really hard. And he's like, if you want to be a character artist, go be a fucking character artist. Just start being that. And I was like, oh, okay. So I started, I just was like, I am, and I started doing it.
Became.
And then exactly, you kind of become that over time, and that comes with a level of maturity.
Sculpted yourself.
That level of maturity is what really solidifies your position when you get to that professional place.
And that's the exact difference that I was talking about. Like, when I could tell that I was like a little different than everybody else at the school. Not like I'm so special, look at me. But you know what I mean? Like, another thing that ties in with that is not only the maturity, but the confidence. So like, on your profiles, like, stop putting aspiring artist. If you're making art, you're an artist.
Exactly.
Just take that shit out. It's useless. It makes it sound like you're not sure of what you can do. Stop dissing your work before anybody looks at it. Stop being like, this isn't very good, but let me know what you think. Like, take that shit out. That's garbage. I don't want to hear it. Like, you've already put into my mind that this piece isn't good. I'm already thinking that. I haven't even looked at it yet. Like, take it out. Take it out. Be confident. Be confident in your work. You made it. You made it with your own two hands. If you from 7 years old could see what you're making now, it would blow their fucking mind.
I love thinking about that.
Yeah, I always think about little Melissa, and she would lose her shit. Absolutely, lose her mind. Every time I'm like being mean to myself, like, that's what it is. You're just bullying yourself. Anytime I'm like being mean or bullying myself, I just think about little Melissa, and she would be so impressed with what I'm doing, and so I'm like, do it for her. Little Melissa.
And there's enough bullies out there. You don't need to be yourself.
Don't, because you know all the shit that makes you upset. You're the worst one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point.
Definitely.
Yeah. After that great advice, I'll give you a kind of ridiculous example from the lack of professionalism around some of the people around me. My senior year, we had an 8-person team. I love these guys. Almost all of them ended up getting jobs. But for our final presentation, this game we had been working on the entire year, the night of, 5 out of the 8 guys, so me included in this case, 4 of them had to borrow plain collared shirts from me because they didn't own a single one. And that's one of those little places where it's like, okay, granted, I guess most of them were good enough that they were able to make up for it later, but just being the type of person who doesn't end up in that situation, that's probably a good indicator right there. It's like, you can wear a t-shirt to the lab all you want, make sure you have a nice shirt. Right? Like, make sure you can present yourself professionally, however that is defined.
It's such a, I'm gonna blanket term here. I know someone's gonna like not all men me, but it's young men just like get a nice shirt.
Basketball shorts do not belong in an interview.
No, just
a little deodorant. Don't smell like this guy.
Please.
God damn it.
Yeah, because he's so sweaty.
If cameras had noses, they would know.
He just sweats so much.
Yeah,
because
like at work, you really don't. You don't have to dress that nice. But the people at work who do dress nicely, they definitely put on a much different aura than others. And I would say,
it'll change your own mind too.
Yeah. There's not very many people at our work who do dress poorly, and those who do, like, it's a different vibe. That's just what it is. That's the human like mindset. That's
right.
Yeah.
Right. I had a thought. It's gone.
Okay, we'll come back to it.
Fine,
this next one sort of bridges into what we're talking about anyway, which is what separates the good students from the great students.
Ooh. I have an answer.
Do you want to jump in?
Go.
Yes. So a good student will successfully compare themselves with their fellow students. And a great student will compare themselves with industry professionals, like seniors. Because once you start doing that, because I'm going to go ahead and say it, I believe that I was probably the best 3D character artist in my school. It was a very small school. But I was the best one there. That doesn't mean shit. Because looking at my portfolio now from a year ago, like, it's very okay. And like, Gavin saw something in me that I can't really see in that portfolio there.
But we're right there with you.
But there is no skin in a game that they give a pass to because an associate worked on it or a junior did. Your work has to be just as good as a senior artist. The only leeway that you get is that you get a little bit more time to work on it, and like maybe you don't have to like help somebody else or something like that. Like, you get helped.
Right.
But your work, like, quality-wise, has to be just as good as the guy who's been there for 20 years. So, chew on that.
All right, I've got one.
All right.
So a good student will work to make themselves the best artist they can be. But a great student tries to help other people around them get there too.
Beautiful.
That's very true, yeah.
Help more too.
You really got to help, like, the people around you. It's good to look around and realize you're not alone and, you know, be there for people who may be struggling or you know, ask other people to help you, because sometimes when people teach, they learn something for themselves. So I would constantly ask the people around me who I aspired to like learn from, I would ask them to teach me things, and then I would see them as they're teaching me go like, oh, actually, I think if I did it this way, it would be better. And we both learned something. And so you're then just you're basically crowdfunding knowledge.
Yeah, I like that.
and it really pushes you ahead. So help people around you, and also ask for help from people around you. And you'll go farther than you would if you were just working on yourself alone.
There's like this little red string that's going through all of this advice here. Because that goes into networking, which goes into like helping get a job, to getting better at your work, and like all of it pulls each other up.
Yes, exactly.
It's a whole like, I don't know, some of these might be kind of cheesy, but they were 100% true. Like 100%.
It's the rising tide that lifts all ships, right? We're talking about just helping each other.
Whoa.
And
I know, it just blew my mind a little, right?
It perfectly reflects the big note that I have here that's circled, is that idea of Well, making sure that you're putting yourself around the right people too. That
Oh, yeah.
helping everyone, as long as when you're sending out those good vibes, the karma will come back, right?
Yeah.
But also choosing the people carefully. When I think back to the students that were around me, there were certain categories of people, and there would be, if you were an overachiever or you spent a lot of time in the lab, I mean, a lot of it just comes back to like, if you were there late at night, you're there with everybody else who's there late at night, right? And you start to build a group. So make sure that you are careful about who you decide to spend time with, because you will become more of them as well.
Yeah, and I will unashamedly say that I at Noman was like, there's one guy I was like, I want to be as good as him.
I want to be.
I want to be him, and he's one of the best guys I've ever met. But because I respected his work so much, I made a very concerted effort to become his friend. And granted, that may not be the best reason to become someone's friend, but I still was like, I need to be close with him because I have a lot to learn from him.
Yeah.
And
Senpai.
through that, I built a group of I found myself surrounded by people of that caliber who I just learned so much from everybody in that group because I made that effort, because I respected one person's art. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So definitely don't be afraid to build a group of friends because their work is good. I know that sounds shallow, but if you're really trying to be a professional and be a better artist, there's definitely some value in it.
Yeah. And it won't feel strained.
No.
If you are all top performers or you want to be top performers, it'll work.
Yeah,
right?
and we ended up we made a whole project together and became a really tight-knit group of friends through the end of Noman, and I still talk to him, so it's all good. Like, it's just it's a weird way to start a friendship, but it still is a valid way to have good friendships.
Yeah. I think this is a really fun time for me to mention that I never did group projects in college.
Oh my God.
It's a weird thing to do.
I didn't
How
do that.
did you do that? Did you get out of them, or did you just not have it?
Well, like for capstone and stuff, like we had the option where we could do it by ourselves. I also went to an engineering school, and they happened to have a game program. But I went there for engineering. I did that for a few years, and then I had to stay at a public Texas college for my tuition. So I just moved over to that instead.
Okay.
So I didn't do like half of that stuff. I did like maybe a year and a half or 2 years of my my 3D modeling degree or whatever. Wow. And like I didn't stay in the lab. I did all my stuff at home. I didn't make connections in school. So it's not like 100%. Like if you don't have the ability to do it, if you're not a student, if you're new, you can still do just fine. I still had a social network. It was just I chose to do my online. Like my social network was online. Yeah. So I still pretty much did the same stuff. Yeah. I just didn't do it in person.
Right. And I'm in the middle. Like you worked in the labs and did a group project. Yep. I worked solely from home, but I did a group project, and you did it all from home and networked online. And they're all valid roads. So it worked.
I just kind of like, because I was so busy. I had work and I didn't live on campus. I had my own like apartment and life and stuff like that. You know, I didn't want to be on campus very often. So I didn't. I went to school, I did my work, I went home, and then...
I really want to do a specific get to know Melissa episode, because I think you have a pretty unique story. I mean, we all do in some ways, but the fact that you were balancing so many other things is pretty interesting. And just coming from Texas,
I just wanted to do college as cheap as possible.
Respect. I envy you.
Maybe that could be kind of the theme of it.
Yeah.
I hate college. This stuff should be cheaper.
Yeah.
That'll be the
headline. I want that tattooed on my forehead. That's my absolute anthem.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
First tattoo I got.
Mine could just be always broke.
Always broke.
That's for college, right?
Thanks to college. We'll hang out. Yeah. It makes sense when we're together.
Yeah.
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 It's like wearing a couple shirt, but only one of you, and it's just like I'm his, and you're just like facing anybody.
I do it.
So
I know.
Let's jump into We could be here all night, guys.
I
We just keep
know.
joking.
This is gonna be so long.
Yeah, I think we were all planning to go to a movie after this, and that started like half an hour ago.
Oh, really?
So yeah, we're way past doing that.
Yeah,
It's not. Is it? It's not.
It's
10,
not 10,
right?
10, no.
Okay,
My
thank
laptop is still on Eastern
Okay,
time.
I was looking at that earlier. Well,
Yeah.
that's okay. We'll
That's
watch
fine.
a Netflix.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
got. I just feel bad for Nick who's chilling over here, but
He's playing his phone games. He's doing
I'll be okay. We had a couple. We're calling them rapid fire questions, but they're more just. Well, you'll see what they are. They're more questions just about what we're doing right now, what we're up to. Let's just go down the line. Start with Melissa. What's something that really excites you right now about industry? What you're working on? Where you're going?
Oh, I answered this as what game I was excited to.
Or yeah,
We'll
well,
do. Go for it.
I just want
any way
Animal,
that you want to take it.
I want Animal Crossing to come out like right now. That's all I
That's a
can
good
think
answer.
about for like the
Yeah.
last whenever they announced it. I need it.
You need it.
I need it.
March.
I know.
Excited?
I am having so much fun playing Death Stranding though. Holy shit.
What?
I know. Some people like they either like it or they don't, but
Wow.
I'm having so much fun with it. It's so creepy, and I just want to make creepy sculpts.
There you go.
Mads
Do
model in there, like all the models are great. Like
Yeah.
Mads, I'm just like, oh my god, that's so fucking cool.
Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
it's just
It's
like
cool.
sometimes you play a game that looks so good. Like I literally I put the game down so I can go sculpt something because I was so inspired
That's
playing
awesome.
it. I
Wow.
am having so much fun.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a very much a visual enjoyment of games person.
Right.
Sure, I mean, I'm right there too.
Yeah.
When I experience a game, I hardly ever actually play them. Like, I just
Yeah.
watch playthroughs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I
Just
get.
get inspired by the art.
Yeah.
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 Just in those visuals.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, so that was pretty sweet.
What about you, man?
For me, it's VR. I cannot, every time that I've gone, I call it like going into VR.
I'm going in.
It's truly, I remember the first time I put them on, it was just before I started at Champlain. So I was senior in high school, and it was like it was before the Oculus Rift had come out, and you were standing in a box. It was just the first time that I had my peripherals covered. And ever since then, every time I've gotten into VR, I've just been so excited about where it's going. And the side tangent to that is I want to have the day where we can, I like exercising and going to the gym and all that stuff. Having a day where I can jump on an omnidirectional treadmill and get chased by a dragon for my morning run while running through Skyrim.
All that
Wow.
sweat in the headset.
Yeah.
But you don't have to be there for it. I'll be enjoying it.
Yeah, that's true. I won't. I
you
won't
do
sit there
you.
watching you run.
Yeah.
That
I
would be
can't
strange.
wait for that Ready Player One future where we're
That
all
would be
just
pretty sweet.
immersed in the world.
Boy, that
Okay.
would be a short game for me.
Yeah. Yeah. See, it's the running that gets me.
You gotta
Yeah.
keep going. The dragon's coming.
I know. It's
Chasing the
easy.
dragon.
It's virtual. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, you can turn it around and you're chasing.
Be like,
the-
you know what? Fuck this. And like you sword. And you're like, I'm going this route. And then your arms are
There you
tired
go.
too. And you're like, oh.
I'm right there with you.
I know.
It's too much exercise.
Yeah.
All right, well, what's exciting you then? It's clearly not
Fine,
running
if
around.
my stuff isn't great. Sorry, Colton, your dreams aren't good enough.
Crushed.
Sorry, man.
It does sound cool though.
It's all right. I'm willing to take critique.
No.
No, it works for you. It just
Shutting
doesn't work
down.
for me.
No more
That's
feedback.
fine.
Yeah.
Tom, okay.
What I'm excited about right now, so I am a big fan of Destiny and Destiny 2, and what really excites me about it is a lot of the lore that hasn't really been explored much in the game. Right now, there's a YouTube channel called My Name is Bife, and he does breakdowns of Destiny lore. And he did this really awesome voice-acted illustrated video on a specific character in the universe, and it got me really freaking jazzed. And so I'm doing a personal piece of that, and just like feeding off of that energy and just immersing myself in the lore
Yeah.
as much as I can, because that stuff's just so cool. Like,
You sent that one to me, right?
yeah. I showed you that
So
one.
good.
It's super freaking good. We should include it in the show notes. But it's just like, I love diving into lore and
Yes.
just
I love lore.
immersing myself in cool worlds that aren't this one, you know?
Yeah.
And then So on the side of that, I am playing way too much Modern Warfare lately, and it gets me jazzed like a 13-year-old boy again. Like I'm just so mad all the time, but it fuels me to get more kills.
Yeah, you and Enrique have chats about that
Dude.
all the time.
I don't know where hours go, but when he comes over to talk about Modern Warfare, it's at least a 45-minute conversation every time.
Yeah, and that's on the clock, man.
He doesn't talk that much either. That's the best part.
Yeah, but he's always there with another question, and I'm just like, I'm here for it. Let's keep going.
I love
That's
it.
great.
I love how cyclical our field is. Like we play games, we get inspired to make art for games so other people can play the games and get inspired to make art to favorite games.
And then we play them and we get inspired. Yes.
Yeah,
I love
It's
it.
the circle of life.
I love it.
that's super cool. So what's something that you have learned recently?
I am
love
learning
that shit.
one of the 50 ways to make hair. So I don't. What? Making hair?
Oh, the character art.
Character hair.
Right.
Where were you going?
He was so scared. Like, what?
I just have flashes.
What are you doing?
I have flashes of this crafting with cat hair book, and I was like, "What are you doing at home?"
No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that.
I was going to like her in her
That's
Breaking
not
Bad
the
lab,
way.
and she's like trying to like
Yeah,
molecular.
one hair at a time. Like, oh yes, perfect.
I'm gonna build a clone.
Yes, soon, my child. Oh, gross.
Okay.
No.
Making hair.
X-Gen.
Yeah.
X-Gen.
Love X.
Yeah, I've been so scared of X-Gen for so long. I've been sculpting hair and like I've done cards and stuff
my
like
gosh.
that, and like I had X-Gen. I was just like, oh, that looks so shitty. I don't want to do it. Now I'm just like biting the bullet. I'm like,
Yeah,
just do
but
it.
see,
It's really not that bad. It was
Yeah.
so much easier than I thought. And I'm like, you're so fucking dumb. You should have done this forever ago.
To me, sculpting hair seems like the scarier task
That's what
for
people
some
say.
reason.
No.
Versus extra.
I think sculpting hair, it's simple, but it's tedious. Like,
Yeah.
you know what you have to do. You just have to sit down and do it. Like, you
Yeah.
just have to take a
I
while.
think that's what scares me.
Yeah, I know. That people just want to, like, go faster.
Quick. Yeah, fast.
Yeah. I mean, there you can make brushes, too,
Yeah,
and stuff.
true.
That's a lot easier. But
Make hair button.
yeah,
Yeah.
you could do that. We're
Get
on
an
our way.
intern.
Yeah, that's us.
So
Yeah.
easy.
Get an intern. Except most interns don't know how to do hair well.
So I'm gonna go deep on what I've learned for this for the preparation for this one. I did a flotation tank yesterday, or one of those.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Dude.
Like the sensor deprivation.
Yeah, sensory
Awesome.
deprivation
Yeah,
one. So
I was
this is my
like
second time
Batman.
doing it, and I went with a friend yesterday. And one of the realizations I had in it was, and I'm still kind of developing this thought, but it was that as students, we're constantly saying, how do we get there? How do we get there, right? How do we break in? The goals in some way are pretty well defined.
Mm-hmm.
But the pattern that I've seen across the board with professionals is that the student, the question immediately transitions to, where am I going now? And I think the sooner that you can start to consider that question, even as a student, the more ahead of the game you will be, and the more fulfillment you will find in your craft.
Yeah.
That's what my thinking is right now. So
Dumb, dude.
if you want to go off of that or
That's
jump
deep.
in with your own
Yeah.
learning.
Mine's so much
I don't
more
even
shallow
think
than
about that.
That's
Yeah.
all right. Bring us back to the surface, bro.
I learned recently that I love spa days.
Spotting, yes.
Right?
The
Yeah,
best.
man. Like,
Oh.
I've never done a spa day in my life, and I did it recently, and it was like one of the best experiences ever.
So good.
Just taking a day to sit and sweat for some reason is so nice.
yeah, it was a Korean spa.
Yeah, it's the best feeling. Yeah, we went
together.
we all went.
Yeah. I didn't
Oh,
invite you.
okay.
Sorry.
Sorry.
It was a double date. It was him and Shelby and me and Nick.
I need to get a girlfriend is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then you can start being invited.
Well,
to
and
stuff.
my question was going to be, do I need to have a girlfriend? in
No.
order to
No,
go to this?
not at all.
I don't want to
And
be
in
the single
fact-
guy at the spa.
No, well, one, nobody knows
You wouldn't be
this.
the only one.
Because yeah.
Yeah.
Because
I'm
they
creepy.
split it into genders at the beginning because there's locker rooms.
Mhm.
So even if you had a girlfriend, you'd be by yourself like half the time.
Mhm.
Because that's where all the hot baths are,
Yeah. I just
and then the sauna room. Then you come back together.
yeah.
You're
I
making
found
me feel
myself
better.
that like I didn't think that it would do this, but I found myself laying in a sauna. I had my eyes closed, and I was just like subconsciously brainstorming ideas for characters.
You're such a nerd.
I know, but it was like
That was our day off.
I know, but it allowed me to detach from everything else in my life for enough time for myself to start making new connections and like and coming up with actual creative ideas
Yeah,
that
yeah.
weren't inspired by something I'd seen or whatnot.
I want to
That's-
say I've never done it, but I get it.
Yeah, that's exactly where I go in the sensory deprivation tank.
Yeah.
So I'll try spy, you try the tank.
I actually do want to try the tank.
You've
yeah.
got to try the tank.
Let's
Yeah.
all tank.
Let's all tank.
Let's get tanked. Let's do it.
Get tanked.
So the last one was a specific thing you want to get better at. You've kind of mentioned that hair is something you're focused on right now, but is there anything else that you're looking to learn in the world of art?
Well, it's the whole thing, but most
All of it.
Yeah.
specifically though, is just kind of like trying to hit that, like going over the uncanny valley and into this is real quality of work, which is so fucking hard. But
Yep.
I love stylized stuff, and a part of me was like, I've been making stylized art for so long, and part of me was like, are you doing this because you don't feel like you can do realism, or are you leaning on this too much? Like, you need to go and try doing realism and like really putting your all into it. So that's the next piece that I'm working on right now, so especially since I haven't posted a full piece since I've graduated. So yeah, that's my next piece, and I'm really gonna try like giving it 100% my all and see how that goes. I found one of the concept artists, Eva something or another. I'll send you the link for her. She did the concept art for so many movies. She did it for like Logan and things like that. Her 2D art is unreal. They look like photos. I hate people like that. I want to be that person in 3D. It's insane. And it's one of those where like you click it and you can see the paint strokes. I'm like, oh fuck you, man. Come on. That's so good. That is so good. So she's amazing.
Infuriatingly good.
Yeah.
I feel you on that
It's
one.
really cool. So that's the next thing. We'll see.
That's a great answer. I feel kind of ridiculous going pretty deep with mine again, but mine is that I want to figure out how I can use my art more for a positive, quantifiable impact on the world. And there's plenty. I feel like it's one of the problems that I run into a lot when I think of just the impact that I'm going to have is that with a lot of things in tech and in business and marketing, there are metrics, right? There are a lot of key metrics that you can just say, okay, I'm getting this number higher, I'm talking to these people, I'm making this much money. It's easier to quantify different pieces of a lot of different jobs. But as soon as you get into the art world, you think about maybe a giant hit movie like Spider-Verse that I think inspires people to be kinder and to go out and achieve more. And I mean, there are a lot of ways that it speaks to how to build a better community, but those are hard to quantify.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of the question that I have right now is where do I fit into that? How am I going to use my art for good, basically?
Yeah.
And there are plenty of sub things like you were just talking about of like, I want to get a little better at this. I want to learn this tool, probably some better unwrapping software. That's definitely in the future. But that's kind of the big question that I'm focused on right now.
Yeah. I'm wondering too, I mean, you've started a podcast that was made to help people. Essentially. So I think you're already taking steps in that direction.
Definitely.
Whether it was intentional or not, I'm not sure, but
Definitely.
It's very exploratory. And you can see kind of where my mind goes to some of these deeper questions.
Sure.
And I think that having conversations with artists and sometimes getting to those lower levels, that definitely is one thing that really intrigues me and one thing that I hope to get more of from the podcast. I've certainly learned so much from the people we've already talked to.
Yeah.
Every one of these conversations.
And these are
amazing.
and these are just like local people too. Like I can't even imagine. It's like Gavin, he'll do interviews where he like calls in and stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We'll go global.
We're
soon.
going in like some tangent here, but
Right.
yeah.
Well, I just want to say though, like, if you just take what you're doing at work at face value, you're already making a quantifiable difference. Because I played games as a kid, and those games drove me to be here. And
That's
even
true,
if that's a small difference, it's still somebody made those games, and those people's work changed the course of my life forever. So whether you know it or not, what you're doing day to day is going to change someone's life.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Just
Good
the way
point.
the butterfly effect works. So you're already there, whether you know it or not, but there's always obviously room to do more. So
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
a respectable goal for sure.
Yeah.
Specific thing I want to get better at. See, well, my first thought was realism as well. It's been a big point in my life lately, is like, I really want to be better at that, especially in the game sense, because the stuff that I see nowadays in realistic games is so inspiring to me that I just want to be in that realm, you know? Like, I want to be swinging with those heavy hitters, like the guys who just released Jedi Fallen Order or Modern Warfare or stuff like that.
Even
like,
our own games. Like, I'll walk by and I'm just
crazy.
like, Jesus Christ.
And I would love to be able to contribute to that. So I'm excited to learn how to do that better. And so, like, my personal piece right now is I'm trying to make it as realistic as possible because I can practice.
We'll bounce off each other.
Exactly.
Oh, that's so nice. I never had like that connection. You know, it's always like somebody who's more experienced or something like that, but never like.
No, we're both on that same level right now. I'm
That's
just like,
cool.
how the hell do we do realistic stuff?
Yeah, but like, I don't know.
I've tried in the past and it's so difficult, and I just know there's so much room to improve. So that's what I'm excited. That's what I want to get better at.
I've gotten so much faster. Holy shit. I made the base mesh before pulling it into Marvelous, and like it took me maybe like 2 hours.
Damn.
Yeah. I was like, Jesus.
Just like poly modeling straight in Maya, made a base mesh?
No, I
in
in ZBrush. Yeah, which ZBrush I used to be so slow with it. And like even when I started working there, I would do stuff in Maya.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Life's crazy.
I'm excited to learn more ZBrush too. Every time I open that program, there's something new that I want to try. New to do.
Literally every time I talk to Jason, like it doesn't matter what program I'm using, he's like, oh, this would be faster. I'm like, God, he knows so much about the tech in these programs.
When we talk to him about it, it's because like he started in I think programming and coding, that side of things.
Yeah.
So like he just knows how to learn really well. And he's learned everything. Like anytime you open something up, he learns how it works at like a fundamental level. Yeah. And I so admire that.
Yeah. It's funny. I was in engineering school, but I was for mechanical engineering. Yeah. So like software stuff, I'm like very okay. I can use it. I can troubleshoot it, but I can't like fix shit or whatever.
Right.
And so like
it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's a different mindset for sure.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything you want me to jump back to?
Yeah, I think we missed some.
So there's one other question from
Yes.
Isabella King, and this is sort of a combined question, but when should students start looking for jobs or internships? And are there other roles that you could look for as a character artist? And I'm thinking of that as like other ways to get your foot in the door, maybe with the long-term goal of becoming a character artist.
Okay.
I definitely have an answer for this.
Go for it.
I didn't get hired as Insomniac as a character artist. I got hired as an outsourcing artist. And we didn't have enough outsourcing for me to just do that. So I started doing character art at work.
There you go.
And now
that's a great route.
And now the model is moving towards all of the character artists are going to have to start working with outsourcing to ramp up the output that 3 fucking artists can put out.
Yeah.
So now it's moving into that position where it's like I was supposed to be outsourcing and not supposed to be doing any character art at all to now I'm a character artist who's teaching the other character artists how to do this outsourcing bit that I've been doing. So it was a weird really shift. Cool. Yeah, so we'll be doing that soon.
And I would have never thought about that when I was in school.
Yeah, and essentially like I just applied for it because I genuinely feel like there's really no job that's beneath me. And so doing outsourcing, we're doing like grunt work or whatever. I don't think outsourcing is grunt work, but some people might. Like we have one person who they were going to apply for the job and they absolutely would have gotten it over me, but they didn't want to do that. They wanted to be a character artist. Yeah. And so they just didn't take it. And they missed out on being a character artist. So you just genuinely never know. Just don't feel like anything is beneath you.
That's good.
And then when you should start looking for jobs or internships, I love statistics and I love seeing metrics and I love playing the numbers game. And I think that really like gave me a leg up. Don't look for jobs and internships at the end of semesters. If you should be doing it a few months before that because everybody's looking for jobs and internships when they're graduating. Yeah. Some people are making their portfolio as they're entering the end of their capstone or whatever your senior thing is. You should have that portfolio ready to go. Apply for those jobs and internships like 2 or 3 months before the semester ends.
Yep.
If you are at the end of the semester anyway and you feel like you're behind, there is always opportunities. Like, go ahead and apply or whatever. But some places, like, you can only apply once every 6 months if you get turned down or something like that.
Oh, wow.
And then another job searching tip is, Bubs, what's it called whenever it looks up terms? SEO? SEO?
Oh, SEO.
SEO. SEO. When you are putting in a resume, some of these things will automatically filter out the words that they have put in the job listing, and they're pulling it from your resume. So some people, they do this with white text. Some people, they just copy and paste it into their thing in the header, and like, I'm looking for a job that pastes exactly what they're saying they're looking for. So it individualizes it, and then it will automatically pull it out when it comes to that technology.
And that stands for search engine optimization. So it's like making your resume or portfolio the most visible that you can on Google when someone types in those key terms.
Yeah, I'm all about that numbers game. Like, I definitely believe that I got my job because of luck, but I also know that I made my own luck.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So you don't know which route's going to do it, like Colton was saying, but you need to make as many routes as possible that you could go down, and you need to be your best advocate for chances and stuff like that. So
definitely.
Yeah, that's my answer.
I had a thought, and it's kind of a weird side.
I like how it's like I had a thought once.
Damon's mind, blank canvas, then.
Yep.
Only when you're in the sauna.
Exactly. That's my only energy.
What is this? Oh my god!
Ever.
It's awful. It hurts.
But I guess are there any other roles that a character artist can try to search for if you just want to be in the realm of character artist? There's almost always work for TDs. And that might not be exactly the creating the character part of it, but it's in that realm, and it's definitely a good way to get into the industry. If you can be a good TD, but you have a passion for character art and making the actual characters, I think you're so much farther ahead than a lot of us, because I can make a character, but you ask me to rig that thing, and I am like a baby taking its first steps. It's sad. So being a TD for sure is a good side route in.
That you're recording while it's recording.
And then also being a shader artist. They are like the unsung heroes of character work. Our characters would not look good if it weren't for our shader department building tech that makes them look good. They're the ones who make skin look like skin. They're the ones who make hair look like hair. We make the geometry and do the textures, but they're the ones who bring it to life. So if you could get into the shader side of things, you're going to be doing some really cool stuff and making really good looking work. And it'll definitely be character focused. They definitely do environment stuff too. They do everything.
Yeah, I feel like they do everything.
They do everything. Our games look the way they do because of shader artists.
Yeah. And it's really cool stuff too.
It's super cool.
I don't think I could wrap my head around rigging enough to do it professionally, but I think shading or shader artists or texture artists, whatever.
Yeah. And weird side thing, but if you like shaders, I highly recommend jumping into Unreal, and especially character shaders, opening up the digital human stuff that they have in there. It's all you can open it up and look at their shaders and how they're built and really start dissecting them. That's how when I did my first character in Unreal, I was like, I need to do skin, but nobody's going to teach me how to do skin at school. So I looked into that, and I just basically reverse engineered what was in their shaders and copy pasted and fit it together the way it worked for me, and I made a skin shader. It was shitty, but it worked, and I think I could, if you're interested in characters, that's a way to go too. And you can always, after working as a shader artist for a while, you can talk to your higher ups and be like, hey, I'm really interested in character art. Next time there's an opening or something. I don't know how that works, but could do it possibly.
I think it's also you need to be extremely honest with yourself when looking for a role and know what your strengths are. So for me, my other go-to, if I couldn't do character art, was doing project management, because I love numbers and I love metrics and things like that. I just like being organized. So project management or production was a side that I was going to go into if I couldn't do it, because I know that's what my strength is. Yeah. So like stuff like rigging, I know I would be bad at it. I know I would. I've tried it. I just didn't get it. I didn't like it. So why would I apply for that role? So you just be extremely honest. And even if you really like this is gonna suck. But even if you really want to do character art, if you can't figure out, like, how do I word this? Sometimes
a real truth bomb.
I'm so sorry.
Just tear the Band-Aid off.
Okay, I will. If you don't have the eye to make a character look good, commercially good, then it might not be where you need to be. And you might still be in the field. You can still do creative work. But you might want to consider looking into a different path. You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. It's just like if somebody was like, Melissa, you should be a 2D concept artist. I am not creative enough to do that. I couldn't do it. Even if I tried, it would take me an extremely long time to be good enough to do it professionally. Right. And so I think if I was given that choice where I couldn't do 3D, I needed to do 2D, I would need to go a different route. Yeah. For the sake of my own sanity. Right. But that's not to say don't do it, right? Like, but it is to say, like, don't do you can do other things while you're working towards that one thing you really want to do. Yeah. And like it goes back to that specialist jack of all trades thing, but you just need to be honest with yourself and with your skills and things like that. And you kind of know. You know when you're good at stuff. Yeah. You know, No, that makes sense. It does make sense. It really does. I don't know how to not sound like an asshole about that, but like
it's accurate advice, though. Yeah.
You definitely need to have a certain level of self-awareness. At all times. And for everything.
One thing that can help with that, Isabella, going back to your specific question of when should you start looking for jobs, is right now. Whether you're a freshman in high school or a senior in college, it should be this moment. You want to be looking at what is the bar. At every one of these studios that I'm interested in, every one of the studios that I'm not interested in, you want to figure out what that bar is as soon as possible. And that is going to help put everything else in perspective. Yep. You're going to be able to start connecting those dots a lot earlier on. And then just going off of a couple other things that were mentioned there. ArtStation does pretty much weekly job roundups. That's a great place to look. Look at that. I know some of the people are asking questions and saying LinkedIn isn't always a great place, but it is another resource.
You should keep your LinkedIn.
Definitely.
I've gotten job offers.
Oh, yeah.
I think everybody's gotten job offers like in the industry.
Yeah, LinkedIn is still, because recruiters are usually not artists, right? They're very different, and they lean in LinkedIn 100%. So
recruiters are the ones who are trying to
exactly.
They will still use it. So keep that stuff tight. And and then taking a look at just basic portfolio tips, like you were saying, making sure that your keywords are in line and that everything is nice and slick. Yes, your portfolio is going to be
one page. One page on your resume, no more than one page.
Portfolio is a lot more important, but resume is important, and keeping it on one page.
I have seen some bad resumes in my life.
Even for artists.
Yeah, I don't know how it's just keep it simple. Don't be weird.
But I'm an artist.
We know. It's
Make it special.
No, you don't have to.
You don't.
Just be good at what you do. Be cool.
Yeah.
Just be chill.
Exactly.
Just
be chill.
Be chill.
That's the core of all this. Just be chill.
Yeah.
Bruh. You get a job.
It's so easy. Why doesn't everybody just be chill and get jobs?
Exactly.
I'm going to cut the episode to just that point. Here you go, students. Be chill, get jobs. 1, 2, done.
It's like, it only records the end of it. Like, that's not the rest of it or anything.
Exactly.
That's it. So is there anything else you want to plug before we have you on next time? I'm sure we'll get another opportunity to chat too.
I don't know. I don't do anything, but I am on Twitter.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you gotta plug that Twitter.
I'm just
We've
like
hyped it.
Follow her on Twitter.
Yeah.
You've got like 7,000 followers anyway.
Yeah,
So.
I'm pretty famous. So
Yeah,
I don't lie.
Almost that verified. You got
No,
10,000?
I don't think I'll ever be verified. I wish. That'd
Is
be
it
funny.
10,000?
It doesn't matter. Some people get
doesn't.
verified with like 1,000 followers. It's random. It's
Yeah.
whenever the Twitter gods think you're good enough.
You're
And
gonna be-
there's a curse though. I don't want to be verified. It's
Yeah.
ugh.
It's like
Trolls
becomes a
start
business at
coming.
that
No.
point. I'm just like, what?
She could do that.
Yeah. So yeah. But yeah.
Cool.
Cool, guys. Well,
Ah.
I think that's all we have prepared. This is by far our longest podcast so far.
Yeah, just for you guys.
Because we care about the students.
That's what
Yeah.
it is.
And these questions kept us going. So yeah, thank you to everyone who sent some questions in. And I hope you guys get some value from this. And we'll put lots in the show notes.
Can I plug one more thing, actually?
Go for it.
I would say one of the biggest resources that I use that helped me out so much, and it just happened to be by Gavin, who hired me, was the Portfolio Killer or Killer Portfolio talk that he does every year at GDC. It is so helpful. He has visuals on like what you need to do. He breaks it down really well, and he's the guy who decides whether we get hired or not.
Yep.
I would genuinely like look into those, study those. Any question that you have, I guarantee has already been answered 1,000 times over. Watch these videos, do as much research as possible, and just go. Just stop waiting for the perfect answer. Just go for it.
The 10 things that I talked about at the beginning there, I believe that is based on his Killer Portfolio.
That would make
talk at
sense if
GDC.
he was a part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that just wraps right around.
Yeah, he's got his little fingers in everything, doesn't he?
Well, he's a good resource.
Gavin is in everything.
He's a great example of somebody who gives a lot to the art community.
Yeah. Oh,
and who
yeah.
has seen that love come back to him.
Yeah.
We love you, Gavin.
Yeah.
It's true. We do.
You're organic, guys.
You brought us all together. Look at that.
Wow.
So much love, guys.
Father Insomniac.
Father Insomniac.
Ooh, that's a good name.
That would
Yeah.
be Ted.
Yeah.
But, well, Gavin's
Fun
father-
Uncle Insomniac?
Funkle?
Funkle
Yes!
Insomniac.
Oh, yes!
That's good,
Funkle.
too.
I want Funkle.
Uncle.
Funkle Insomniac.
Yeah,
That's
here we go.
Gavin, you don't get to choose these names.
No,
man. They
you don't get
choose
to
you.
choose a nickname. Ew, nobody
Never.
does that.
Uncle Gavin.
Funkle Gavin.
Sounds
he's,
so bad.
He's gonna fire us.
He's gonna love that.
Second this
All
thing
right.
comes
We love you,
Okay.
brother. All right, this has gone on long enough.
Yeah, I
Yep.
guess, yeah.
Let's wrap it up, guys.
All right. This has been really fun, guys.
This hasn't been recording the whole time, has it?
We'll see.
Hmm.
We'll find out next time.
All right.
Peace, guys.
Peace.
Well, the rain's picking up, so I gotta wrap this up fast. Melissa, we loved having you on. You were a blast to talk to, as always. I hope people got some great value out of listening to this. Make sure you check out the show notes for all the resources we talked about, things that Melissa shared. As always, please like, subscribe, share this with anybody else who you think might draw some good value out of it. And you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter now. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. And until next time, my friends, keep creating. Bye.